The others will just have to catch up. Evaluations, with, I think I made mention of the email to everyone earlier about, where we do evaluations of the city administrator and the attorney. We also need to add evaluations for our police and fire chiefs. And I spoke with Pete Auger about our needing a tool to do that, and we might use the same tool for all four if council's agreeable to it. When I get that from Pete, I'll share it with you, but we haven't evaluated police and fire chiefs in the past, but it has to do with how they affect pay raises now. I think everybody's got the same percentage, and that's about to change. So we need to weigh in on our chiefs. So that's a heads up that's coming. We had an issue brought before us last time about signage and how we do it, and we had one proposed to sign to name one of our sports fields after. And, the vice mayor took that issue on.
I appreciate the confidence, Mayor. But we have, I've discussed this with Steve and with Travis and Parks and Rec and Tony and Andrew, and the sign that's been proposed to us meets all the requirements, with the exception of they wanted to make sure that it had the city logo and the Parks and Rec logo on it instead of the East High logo. And Travis says that if we'll go ahead and okay that one, there was a question about whether signage should be uniform all over the city with the parks, and we all agree that it should not, that each park is different within itself, and the character of that park should be noted by the sign as well. So they will have a sign ordinance for us within the next 3 weeks, but we should go ahead and allow them to start the sign where they are.
We have a majority here, is that okay? We're all right with that? That's, we've got a nod and a wink from a majority, so let's let Andrew and Travis know that proceed.
And Travis needs to let Travis know that we need to sign, is it, would we call it a sign ordinance for parks?
No, there'll be a policy for
Just
parks.
policy, okay. Thank you.
Thank you for handling that.
Well, thank you for allowing me to do that.
Agenda items, Tony, is there anything on there this?
Before we get to agenda items, a couple of loose ends to follow up on. The last meeting in this session, we talked with the potential for filing a class action lawsuit with regard to the pricing for insulin. We provided some information to you through email. I didn't get a lot of feedback. I don't know if, Ron, if you've got anything to add to that, but we kind of need some direction of go, no go in terms of what you want to do with regard to that lawsuit.
Do you recommend that we go with it?
You want to weigh in on that?
I mean, I think it makes sense to go ahead and join in. Again, I feel comfortable, the county has joined in. You never know how these things are gonna go, obviously, and what kind of funds or what kind of settlement there may be, but, it's probably better to jump in than not.
Was this a solicitation by them for us to go with them? Because he said there was other people doing the same thing.
Yes, so there were other groups, so some of these attorneys that are involved in this one were also involved in the opioid litigation one,
So they know
but
what they're doing.
like with the overarching opioid one, that was spearheaded by a lot of the district attorneys in the surrounding areas, and the district attorneys aren't getting involved in this one and filing their own suit. So if we want the option to get involved in a suit, this would be the one to get involved with.
I don't see there's any reason why we shouldn't.
Really, there's no risk associated with our participation. And if it goes as the last lawsuit did, and they were proved to have inappropriately controlled costs, I think that there's a chance for some returns back to the citizens.
Right.
When you say insulin, is that For the Morristown employees or something, or what is that?
No, it's citizens in general, it's not just employees.
Okay.
It's class action, is that what we would call it?
Correct,
Well,
yes.
cause the insulin was going up so high, is that what it was?
Correct, yes, price fixing.
VA, so it's in the line.
So what do we need to do? We'll need a resolution on the
Yes,
next meeting?
yes,
So
so
that-
that's fine, yes, there were some tweaks that needed to be changed about the one that was submitted to us, so we can tweak that and then get it on the next agenda.
So that'll be a resolution on your next agenda to move forward with joining in that lawsuit. One other off-agenda thing to just bring you up to date, and I guess, Andrew, you're the one that could probably do the best in terms of briefing us. But the landfill expansion is gonna need some additional financing. There's some conversations going on with the city and county, and Andrew's on top of it.
I might be on top of it, but there might not be much more to say than that. The solid waste board did open up bids on landfill expansion a couple weeks ago. You'll remember that in late 2022, we went out to market for bonds, $4.5 million. The county did the same for what we assumed was gonna be a $9 million project, what engineers had indicated would be a $9 million project. I think some changes have happened to the scope of that project. It's a little bit larger now, and then obviously the dollar amount's larger now, so when they open bids, they're really looking at about 15.3 million. The shortfall of about 6.5 million, it really means going back to market again. We're having conversations with the county about what that looks like, and timing and that kind of thing. But that's really about as much as we know right now. We're having conversations with the county, we're having conversations with Morristown Utilities. Of course, we're both in on our budget prep stages right now, trying to figure out what next year looks like, who's got what kind of financing needs over the next year, that kind of thing. So that's about as much as we know right now, but definitely keep you posted as that conversation moves ahead.
Yeah, Bob, from the board's perspective, you got 3 bids. The low bid looks like a good bid. It's just higher than what we thought.
No, it's low. But what happened was the second bidder, the low bidder was $5 million low. He left $5 million on the board. My concern was that we better watch the change orders on it. But the holdup on that thing has been the engineering company had just stalled it for about a year for lack of their proper attention to the project. So, I guess that's a pretty good price if the others had $6 million more.
Yeah, 1 at 15 and 2 at 22. I think you
Yeah.
take the 15 and run.
That makes you look strong.
All right, on the agenda itself, most of the things are fairly straightforward contracts, purchases, a couple of things just to make sure you're aware of. On the police department, the Ford Interceptors, we're stepping out of time sequence from normal practice and asking you to approve purchase of what would be included in next year's budget, simply because we found some cars and we think we can get them. And as much trouble as we've had getting vehicles, we're gonna recommend we go ahead, buy them, recognize that in next year's budget that we've already purchased them early. There'll be some adjustments there, but PD's done a good job of identifying some vehicles out there. We did get a couple of bids. I think we've got a responsive bid, and so we're gonna recommend that one. But it does feel a little different because we're buying earlier than we normally would. The other thing that's on here that's kind of out of the norm is also from PD. You remember in December that Chief Overholt and Jones talked about the interlocal agreement, mutual aid agreements with sister agencies across the region that we may be working with, and a recommendation to update our agreements from PEP, our liability insurance carrier. And they've been out beating the bushes. They have 8 of them ready for consideration tonight. Although they are 8 separate agreements, we're gonna ask you to consider approving all of them with one motion as opposed to doing 8 separate motions for identical agreements. But Lawrence looked over them. I think the chief's been involved in getting them set, and they're pretty much uniform. So those things have been kind of a little difficult to get to this stage and be ready to put in front of you. There'll be, I think there may be as many as 20 to 25 5 by the time we're done, but this is a good lick getting started.
I asked, Assistant Chief Weisbarber, as I look at these, it looks like the ones with the most resources is Morristown Police Department. And that, is this a fair sharing of resources that you felt they were comfortable that most of the sharing of resources are human resources and sharing men and officers when they need them? I didn't want us to be the one that others called on to enhance. I wanted it to be a fair sharing, I guess is what I asked.
Well, I think we have to look with pride at our department and its capabilities. We've got some things that we can do that others do not have, and sharing that is something that's worthwhile. But I think you're right. The biggest thing when it really, the rubber meets the road is, do we have enough people to man a search or respond to an incident? And people is a big, important resource.
Well, would not add to that yes, we're a step ahead a lot of times of other people around us, but as we find out when we go to these TML meetings, that seems to be the norm about a lot of things that goes on, is that Morristown's out front. And it's, you're proud of what you hear when you go to those places.
Okay. Well, Assistant Chief said, yeah, we were comfortable with it, and I hadn't had a chance to talk to the chief, so.
I just saw Roger a second ago, but I didn't catch his.
Well,
I think we're okay. He's worked hard on getting this.
we got 3 public hearing ordinances. Are we okay on that? One's the, rezoning up there up on, West Economy Road. The other one is the motion to change our language on, cleanup operations on, vehicle repair and tire stores. The other one is the closing of the right-of-way there below First Baptist. I recognize we have some very top from First Baptist coming to say this. And I'm assuming that that's what your interest is, not just how the local government works in general.
Are they on the back row?
Yeah, the back row Baptist.
Where else?
I wasn't gonna mention that, but we got a Methodist here that pointed that out. I'm looking out for you, so. Any concerns on those public hearings? We're okay? All right.
I don't know, Steve, if you had any comments, any public reaction?
Not heard a word.
Do we need to bring that, taking that off the table? Do we need to bring that up, taking that off the table? Not today, but, okay.
Okay. We'll move to the, public comment part of our pre-agenda meeting. If, anyone has an item you wish to bring before the council about any particular topic you believe we need to know about or hear about, we will open the floor and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Please identify yourself by name and address and the topic of your concern. And, we'll remind you there are 2, opportunities to speak at the 5 o'clock meeting when we're in session about items that are on the agenda in public hearings, but this primarily is about items that are not on the agenda, and something that, you want to speak about. It's not a question and answer session necessarily, but, we are here to listen to comments. So the floor is now open. Who wishes to be heard?
Reach on East First North Street. Excuse me. I want to apologize. When last week, when I was talk about that, I'm glad that Mr. Andrew got his permanent contract. I thought he would just work as a temporary temp worker and get his contract. That's what was in my mind until I just read the most recent city letter by mayor, congratulate that Mr. Cox is gonna retire sometime soon. And then I found out that I'm really insensitive. I graduate one side without realize the other was retiring. I almost sounds like I'm rubbing into it, but at least I understand that Mr. Cox is retiring, and that explains why he's become much more relaxing and grow up his tail, not tail, I'm sorry, long hair, not tail. And as a citizen, since I moved into the town in 1995, I never have any business to concern about anything going on here until recently. But nevertheless, I benefit from a good leader and make our city prospect in a way that everyone can see materially. And actually, I think there's a lot of things is better than before, even though there is much more miles that we can go forward. One thing is that the city just recently give up some of the alleyway, the public land, that is no longer used as a driveway, and then just divided it into the adjacent neighbor, the owners. And I don't think that is the best way to handling it. That piece of land have a monetary value, and it has a value to contributing to the community. Maybe at least we should consider that as a community garden or something like that. From all the years, the survey, the city paid a lot of money to do. The result is always that the citizen is not really participating in the city, in the cities in a deep and meaningful way. And I think the community garden, or maybe some program I will mention in the future, can initiate from the library and become, think it as a dreamer, something related to the library program that we can strike as a Guinness program, a Guinness record, but that is in the future. But the basic idea is we should not give up the land, just be nice. That land has monetary value, has a value that can contribute to the public. One simplest, and I already mentioned it, just most directly jump into my mind is community garden. I understand there's a lot of the details we need to go through. For example, where I'm going to get the water, and how does the neighbor feel, security, whatever. There's a lot of the details need to be ironed out, but should not give out for free. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Who's next? Anyone else wish to be heard? Hearing none, we'll close this portion of the pre-agenda meeting for public comments. Council or Lauren, are there other items, any item on your mind or that we need to bring up? Hearing none, we'll reconvene at 5 o'clock.
You did good. Don't let them do it that way. You're as good as they are. Nobody's better than anybody else. They just think they are.
Going anywhere you need to go. That's what we were here
Can I speak to you for a minute?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that traffic. There's one.
You're welcome.
There's nothing like that. Watch this meeting. I hope you're having a good day.
I am.
All right,
Thank
now.
you for the man.
Well, you're quite what?
But I want to ask you a question. We can go right here. And what did you mean by putting a show on for Miss Snowy to
Putting a
me?
show on.
That's what you said. Miss Snowy's not here now, so you don't have to put on a show. Last meeting. You remember?
Because, now, I'm just gonna shoot straight with you.
I want you to.
Listen,
I'm shooting straight with you.
That's right. It seems like a lot of times that, I think you speak from the heart. Let me say that up
I
front.
do.
I believe that.
And I'm truthful.
I believe that too. But I think a lot of times what I hear is when you come up and make, now I'm not saying every time, but sometimes you bring stuff up to the city that I think, I don't believe that she really believes that. I think she's being told to ask that question.
No.
And I think because there's terminologies that you've used, there's things that you've said before that I think that's exactly what Linda Noe would say.
No. I don't take anything from Miss Snowy.
Well,
I do not.
I'm glad to
I
hear that.
speak for myself.
I
And
know
I
you do.
come to these meetings because I didn't like what the city of Morristown did when I was a child.
Well, but here's the thing now, like I said, I'm gonna tell you just exactly how I feel. There's been quite a few times that but even before we started coming in here, that you would get up and say something to city council, and then you'd go back and you and Linda Noe would have a conversation.
No.
I've sat there and watched it now. Now, I don't believe,
She's my friend,
I-
and she was my lawyer at one time too, so
Well,
I got a
she-
right to talk to her anytime I want to.
Sure you
And
do,
you're
sure you
just
do.
drawing a conclusion,
I'm
thinking
trying-
that we're talking about something we talk
that's
about.
exactly,
What we
that's
talking
true,
about.
that's true.
But that's your opinion.
That's my opinion.
That's an opinion.
That's what I
And
was
we all
saying to you.
have them.
That's right.
Yes.
You're exactly.
And I appreciate
But
you
don't have-
talking to me.
Well, I don't feel like, I want you to believe this. I don't want you to understand it, because I know you understand it, but I want you to believe it. I think that you come here with every intention of doing what you think's the right thing to do.
Well,
Now, I'm not-
you should know that we done the right thing. We won the case when we sued the city for what they did. So that right there
We-
tells you.
we-
Yeah, more than me.
We.
There was a bunch of us
Was
that
Linda
did
Noe
that.
involved in it?
No,
She wasn't?
no, just us. The community where I lived.
I,
And you had it coming. I'm sorry, but you did.
that's, I appreciate what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
You and I will get along.
Yeah, we
You and I
will.
Because
Yeah,
you tell me
because
exact-
I
want you
don't
to
want
tell me
to. I
exactly
don't want
how
to be
you
mean
feel.
to nobody.
I want you to tell me exactly how you
I
feel,
will.
and I will tell you exactly how I feel.
I appreciate
And if we
that.
get along with it, fine. If we don't, we can still go away
That's
being
right.
friends.
I cannot agree with you and still like you.
That's right.
Yeah.
You don't even have to like it.
Amen.
This lady right here, this lady right here is Martha.
All right. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
I heard the thumping, but I didn't see you. My phone.
You're right.
And my key.
Yep, right here. Everything on.
I hope it doesn't go on. It did. I got on a,
Glasses.
yeah, you do it. Go ahead. I'm not
That's what it
hiding
was.
anything.
No, you're good. That's what it
It's a
was.
plain old ordinary taxpaying citizen line up. and nothing.
Nah, you're good.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
You know, if everybody in the world was good, we wouldn't have to have those things. Amen. We got reserved seats. Oh, that is not mine.